Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. If you missed this fantastic 6-hour workshop this week, the How to Care for and Feed Your Organs and Body Parts from Your Brain to Your Toes, we recorded it. You can still buy access to it. It was great, if I say so myself, and I'm the one who taught it. Next week starts our 6-week boot camp, and every week for 6 weeks, you're going to get a yoga class on Monday, a strength training workout on Tuesday, a cooking class on Wednesday, and a lecture on Thursday. So it's so inexpensive. For $195, if you're a member, you get 6 yoga classes, 6 workouts, 6 lectures, 6 cooking classes with all the recipes. You'll have the equivalent of a recipe book when we're finished. And if you're a non-member, we can fix that right away, and you can join and save money on it as well. So we do some great, great stuff at Wellness Forum. And if health is one of the things you're interested in, we are the people to help you achieve great health. All right, so let's get to the news. Lots of things to talk about this week. And the first one is I'm a part of a group of health professionals who found each other during the COVID debacle. A lot of differences among us, but our shared interest is opposition to using public health to control people and recognition of the limitations and dangers of our current medical system. So the group are, like I said, we don't agree on everything, but we're outliers collectively, and I think that's a good thing these days. One of the doctors reported something this week that I thought was interesting that I'll share with you. Quote, I testified in Tacoma Monday in Strandquist versus Washington State Department of Health and Human Services, where Dr. Strandquist had sued for termination over non-accommodation of his COVID vaccine religious exemption application. This morning, before closing arguments, the state caved and agreed to a $600,000 settlement. This is the first vaccine termination case in the state of Washington that has gone to jury trial. There are some 200 more plaintiffs in the state with similar suits at various stages of filings. It's a very important precedent and result. Well, we also have cases like this throughout the United States. And first of all, notice the time lag. I mean, I said from the beginning, the litigation's like watching paint dry, and it is not just for us, but for everybody else as well. But generally, the courts, even liberal courts, are upholding religious exemptions. And clearly, what happened here is the state of Washington saw the handwriting on the wall and said, this is only going to get worse. We probably better settle it. So the good news about this is, of course, because winning is always good news, but the other thing is from the beginning, I've said we have to teach these people a lesson, and economically, that's where it really hurts. If you punish them economically, the next time this happens, if there is, God forbid, a next time, I'm sure there will be more deliberation about what you're going to try to force on people with the judgments starting to roll in. For the next topic, I'd like to share some very good perspective from a doctor who is concerned about the current administration's plans to edit what drug companies can say in their ads. And we've all seen the disgusting ads where there's music and everybody's beautiful and having a good time at outdoor festivals, and they're telling you all the side effects of the drug and the whole 9 yards. But we should be concerned about censorship. Makary, the head of FDA, said he wants to do something about that. And so we all hate the drug companies. We're like, yeah, let's go on ahead. But I want to show you a different perspective here, and then I'll give you some commentary. Quote, we should understand that there's no saving an idiot from himself. My patients don't come to my office and say, give me that drug and the dance that the dancing is all about. They come in and they ask for my opinion of what they saw. And because I don't take payment from third parties, and I have a payment scheme that doesn't make it more profitable to pack my schedule, I can give them a thorough and unbiased opinion of risks and benefits. It's the docs who are coerced and rushed and protocol driven that sells the drug. Fix that and the advertising won't matter anyway. I understand the allure of saying they buy the media's compliance with ads, but how did they get the enormous sums of money to monopolize the media? They get it through coercion of the healthcare system. Fix that, and their profit weapon goes away. And it goes away without our having to abridge free speech. Are we sure we want government placing limits on what a businessman can say about his product? I want the only limits to be what he can prove in court is not fraudulent. Given the complexity of healthcare, drug manufacturers will rapidly see they can't make an ad that actually sells the drug and gives complete discussion without being boring and an hour long. Reform medical opinions so that they're open market generated, and pharma will find that without coercing the doc's opinion, that the money generated by ads doesn't pay for the enormous sum they have to pay to control the media. And we'll still have our First Amendment rights untrampled. I can't tell you how many times I couldn't easily get my hands on the original research paper about an agent because of FDA restriction on reps. Full discussion and debate solves propaganda, not speech restriction. From free the doc from his coercion and the issue goes away. And he goes on to say, in my humble opinion, what Macari is proposing is likely unconstitutional and simultaneously useless. When I see these ads, they aren't convincing to patients. It's the financial control of providers that makes them useful. At best, this discussion likely distracts us from the changes that matter, ending all third-party payments to providers. This is an excellent opinion piece that reminds us that administrations controlled by both parties can make things worse, even with good intentions. Macari says the ads are disgusting. I agree. But censoring speech, even when we all revile the people speaking, like the drug companies, is a really slippery slope to censoring your speech and censoring my speech. And my speech was censored during COVID. I was deplatformed and debanked and all of those things that you heard about. And as much as I despise the drug companies, and I do, and I think that they're vile creatures, if we can censor their speech, they can censor yours and mine. And so I think that we should be careful about our enthusiasm for some of these things and not assume that just because this administration appears to be on the right side of some things that just it's all swell. We have to remain really diligent as citizens. So, last thing I want to share with you today is we're continuing our David versus Goliath battle against EcoHealth and Peter Daszak and Ralph Barrick and others in several courts. A recent brief filed in our Hoffmeyer case, which was filed in Massachusetts, is packed with some great information, which I'll share with you here, which I think will keep you all riled up about the importance of these cases. And they're super, super important, just as much as the religious exemptions and that sort of the other battles that we're fighting right now. This is the first brief in which our lawyers have started to implicate others, other than the primary targets of our lawsuits, who were involved in the scheme to illegally make dangerous viruses that can kill people and then to cover it up. Gerald Cush is a professor of medicine and international health at Boston University, and David Morens is the frumpy, god-awful, creepy crawler who testified in front of Congress, who is an advisor, was an advisor to Mr. Fauci. He's the guy who talked about in his emails about the ability to deny FOIA requests because he had somebody in NIH that could make stuff disappear. Super great guy, right? The brief describes how the defendants unlawfully created, released, and then concealed the source of SARS-CoV-2. Quote, together, the three scientists, Daszak, Cush, and Morens, engaged in a scheme to conceal defendants' virus manipulation known as gain-of-function research, which led to the creation, release, and cover-up of the source of SARS-CoV-2 that infected Mrs. Hoffmeyer, causing her death. In one critical email summarizing the plan to obstruct freedom of information requests and congressional investigations, Dr. Cush stated in an email to Daszak and Morens, the less we provide the enemy, referring to Congress, the better. The less we provide the enemy, the government is the enemy. Well, I kind of think the government is the enemy too, but the government was trying to get to the bottom of what happened here. And then the brief goes on to cite excerpts from the congressional report, which are super damning about Daszak's false statements and he perjured himself and all that sort of thing, failed to file his reports and didn't report that he created something dangerous like he was supposed to. But anyway, following all of this, the Department of Health and Human Services immediately suspended and then debarred both EcoHealth as an institution, and it's closed now, in part thanks to our litigation, and Daszak individually. Unprecedented actions reflecting the severity of the documented misconduct and obstruction directly linked to conduct undertaken in Massachusetts. In a December 2019 interview, and I had read this a long time ago and totally forgot about it, but it's in the brief, just weeks before the pandemic emerged, Defendant Daszak himself acknowledged the extraordinary risks that his research was creating. And I'm going to read this quote because it'll just take your breath away. And we have now found, after 6 or 7 years of doing this, over 100 new SARS-related coronaviruses very close to SARS, Some of them can get into human cells in the lab. Some of them can cause SARS disease in humanized mice models and are untreatable with therapeutic monoclonals, and you can't vaccinate against them with a vaccine. So these are a clear and present danger. So what this shows is that before this all happened, Dajik knew what he was doing. He knew it was dangerous. They'd already created dangerous stuff. They were supposed to report it to NIH and they didn't. And then when the proverbial stuff hit the fan and it was really clear that this had happened, he and his high-level academic friends and his partners like Fauci and Morens and the Department of Health and Human Services decided that they would obfuscate and cover up what they did. And isn't it always the cover up that gets you in trouble? Furthermore, our lawyers, right? Gain-of-function research inherently involves creating pathogens designed to overcome natural barriers to human infection. The very success of such research means creating agents that are more capable of causing human infection than their natural predecessors. No amount of reasonable care can eliminate this enhanced pathogenic potential once research succeeds in its objectives. But anyway, the claims in this brief, and the whole brief is wonderful. If I could just read the whole thing to you, you'd be riveted by it. I was, and I know all this stuff already. But why are we doing this? Well, the current administration debarred Dajak, and the current administration debarred the gain-of-function research and or prohibited gain-of-function research, and EcoHealth is closed. But in 5 or 6 years, it'll be different, a different administration. What's going to happen, we don't know. So it's up to us to dissuade others from engaging in this research. So I'll just finish with this. One of our experts, Stephen Quay, was asked during a congressional hearing why gain-of-function research continues since it's so dangerous. And his answer, I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but he said, well, first of all, it's super profitable. And second, because the scientists who do it get their articles published in the best journals. All right, so here's what I'd like to hear from a future public hearing. Question: whatever happened to gain-of-function research? You don't hear about it anymore. Answer: a group in Columbus, Ohio, relentlessly pursued people who were engaged in this research after the COVID debacle. And frankly, after all the damage awards, people can't afford to get involved with it anymore. That's how you fix this. So it's wonderful that the current administration has a no tolerance policy for this type of thing. But the only way we fix it for good is to change the situation so it's no longer profitable. In fact, nobody in their right mind would sign up to do something with gain-of-function research. That's how we fix it. And that's why we have to remember, it's just so far from when this started, it's easy to forget because our rights aren't being really restricted in important ways and that kind of thing. But we have to remember why we started this in the first place and why it is so, so, so important for us to finish it. All right, so with that in mind, always my plea for money, send money, because what we're doing costs money to turn out beautiful briefs like this and pursue much bigger entities than ourselves. It is a David and Goliath kind of battle. We need money. So we so appreciate those donations coming in. And I'll remind everybody again, $5 a month from everybody who gets this broadcast. I'd never have to worry about money again. So little amounts matter because they add up to big amounts every single month. Also, if you're interested in some of the upcoming stuff from Wellness Forum, ranging from my behavior change program, which starts again next week, Winner's Circle, to our upcoming boot camp, or some of the things that we've already offered that you can get recordings of, just send me an email at pampopper@wellnessforum.com. Thank you so much for watching this. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy learning from me and learning about what we're doing. And I will be back to you next week with more news. Have a great rest of your week and weekend.